welcome to another episode of Off the Fence.
Hi.
What do you think about us doing this whole episode in ASMR?
No, because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but I think all of that is just kind of creepy. It makes me uncomfortable.
That's really neat, Katy.
Oh my goodness. The way people talk about it, it makes me concerned for all of us. But I did tell you, I did think, because since we're both over 40 now, we should, instead of at the beginning of the episode trying different foods, we should just lament about the foods we can't eat anymore because our bodies have rejected them now, like dairy and stuff like that.
I used to be able to eat a whole giant bowl of cereal and never regret eating that. No, I do.
I hardly ever buy cereal because the kids go through it so fast.
I love cereal.
It's
Milk
really
and
just
cereal.
sugar in a bowl, babe.
I know. Hey, so I wanted to chat about an experience that I had, and then of course there's like some Bible lesson behind this and stuff. So our son plays tackle football. He's currently 9 years old.
On the Raiders.
They've now gotten large enough that the helmets are not larger than the rest of their entire bodies. Pretty close though.
It's adorable.
It is. But a football game in the league that he plays is like, there's a ton of needed volunteers. Mm-hmm. There's concession stands. There are snacks for the kids. And football teams are not small. So you're talking 22-ish.
I think we did Gatorade last week for the team, and it was 22.
Yeah. So there's snacks for the kids. There's all the team. We tailgated, and that was organized.
So fun.
There's NPR, which is called, so they keep track of all the kids and how often they play and make sure all the kids fairly get, not an equal amount of plays, but they all get a good amount of plays and all that kind of stuff. A scoreboard, blah 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 blah. So
chains. Let's just
chain
keep going.
gangs. I'm going through all of them. I feel like I'm
can't do any of
advertising.
those because I don't pay attention long enough from one point to the next that I would not be able to do many of those. But I can bring Gatorade.
So here's the interesting dynamic. So, as parents, we sign up our kid to play football. He semi enjoys it. It depends on the day. And we enjoy watching him play football. That's kind of the gig, right? You pay money. Football's not cheap compared to some other sports. I wish he was like running cross country. That would be far more fantastic. But here's the dynamic. So there's all these volunteer roles, and they ask parents, "Hey, volunteer." And I'm full to say, I don't want to.
They also give you an option of paying money to not have to volunteer.
Right. But when I say I don't want to, it's not that I don't love my child. It's not that I don't recognize and see the need to volunteer.
And even want to contribute.
Right. No, I want to. I want to.
Right.
But I also want to watch my son play football.
Right.
I want to be involved in that. And plus, and again, I sound like a whiny baby. But there's a point to this. I'm telling you, there's some selfishness in this. I just didn't want to. I wasn't in the mood to. I see the need for it. I should do it. I feel a bit inside like I should be doing something. But our schedules are pretty crazy, and so it feels kind of nice for approximately 2 hours to be able to sit and just sit and watch the kids. So it comes around. I'm not volunteering. And we're part of this app, and it's like, hey, we need
desperate needs.
desperate needs. We need an announcer for the football game. Now this game is getting played at the South Dakota School of Mines and Technology, right? Mm-hmm. So a big giant stadium. And when I saw that, I was like, why are they wanting me to do this? Why are they putting this in front of my face? And then I realized, wait a minute. Maybe this isn't near as personal as that. Maybe I'm feeling guilty, convicted that I should be volunteering. So I did the classic yet safe, hey, if no one has signed up, even though they're advertising no one signed up, hey, if no one signed up, sure, I'd be happy to sign up and not be happy. I didn't say that. I would be willing to do the announcer job. Boom. Within seconds. You got it, David. David, you're
multiple people.
Multiple people. You are announcing. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Thank you so much.
So now eventually I'm going to be given a microphone and I'm going to talk, but I have no idea. I've never done it. I didn't grow up playing football. I don't know how to call even all the plays and all that kind of stuff. I grew up a basketball kid, soccer kid, golf kid, baseball. So I show up not knowing what to do whatsoever.
To an empty press box. Well, the people that were doing it for the game
empty
before.
No one was there. So, and what Katy knows, because we have enough of these private conversations, people were like, yeah, but David, you talk to people. You're doing a podcast right now. But like, how were my emotions?
Well, you asked me to stay with you and sit there. So
I did.
I think you were in just a little, you had some distress.
I literally was like, you said, well, hey, how can I help you? I'm like, you can sit next to me, shoulder to shoulder,
Help
please.
me know.
Because I'm freaked out.
Yeah.
So long story short, even though that was really kind of a long story, but
you did a great job though. You didn't have one dad joke. That would be my only complaint.
There was one time where the ref, called a penalty on we were playing the Bears, and was moving his arm in a way like, I don't know that penalty. Like, I watch football, I don't know that penalty. So like, I'm announcing to this whole stadium, flag on the field, the Bears have done something they weren't supposed to do, and they're losing yards for
to
it.
be determined.
Really official. So
you did great.
Here's why I tell that story. It brings me to the story of Joseph in the Bible. Let me read this because I've got some of this here. If you want to look this up, maybe this is new to you or not, but Genesis chapter 37. So first book of the Bible, go about 2/3 of the way through the book, and you're going to land somewhere around Genesis 37. Joseph, a young man of 17, young man, there's a hint, immature man, a young man of 17 was tending the flocks with his brothers, and he brought their father a bad report about them. Typical brother. Going and reporting, hey, guess what they did? That's how 17 probably. Hey,
Dad.
And so what we learn as you keep reading, you're going to learn that Joseph was loved more than any of his other brothers, and Dad appears to have made that blatantly obvious.
Abundantly clear.
Like gave him special gifts, was really overly concerned about him and all that kind of stuff. Well, eventually you'll roll into where Joseph starts to have dreams. God starts to give him dreams. And one of them, Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him all the more. And if you're like, well, why did they hate him for the dream? He said, listen to this dream I had. We're binding sheaves of grain out of the field when suddenly a sheaf rose and stood upright, while all the other sheaves gathered around mine and bowed down to it. Now, when we read the book of Joseph, sometimes we're like, but I love Joseph. That's so cool that God would give him that dream. Well, then he has another dream, and he basically tells his brothers the same thing. Hey, I had this other dream. Basically, I'm really cool, and you're going to worship me and bow down to me, and this is going to be awesome. If you study this real well, you're going to learn that Joseph, when he was telling these dreams, he was more focused on how the dream affected him rather than how it affected his family. And I think there's a good lesson, because most of the Joseph stories we have are he was the most amazing person, right? And I'm sure he was. But so here's the connection. When I was just realizing, and I was convicted by this, and so I wanted to talk a little bit about this, because in where we live, family's a big deal. But I think we're using family as a crutch. Like where you say, I'm a dad, I'm a mom, I'm a this, I'm a that. And so I have to, but I think sometimes we use it as excuses, maybe even lies, opportunities to be selfish when we're being selfish, but we're masking as though I'm investing in my family. Joseph was more focused on how his dream affected him rather than how it affected his family. So as he was telling his brothers and things like that, he was just like loose, like, here you go. Yeah. Not realizing how it landed. And it appears as though how it's written in the Bible, he didn't seem to care how it landed.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't thinking. He just wasn't thinking about it.
And so what we learn is they were so put off by some of the favoritism of dad, but also how Joseph was communicating this stuff that they were so upset about it. So here's the lesson that I've tried to live by, and evidence with me not wanting to volunteer for Titus's football because I'm dad and I'm going to sit. Stop choosing role while ignoring responsibilities. So that's why I want us to just spend some time on this. Like, I think nowadays we get on the fence when we say, but this is my role. And we let responsibilities that we can see and that are being presented to us, and we don't take them. We don't do anything with them because my role. And so I had some like sifting questions.
Oh, I love it when you have those.
Okay. When you enter a room, are you focused on what you can give or on what you can get? On what you can give and what you can get. And again, I mean, I'm not trying to shame anybody. I was going to football games to get. I mean, I wanted to sit, watch my son play football, not have any responsibilities, not be thinking about anyone else. I just wanted to have focus, and I wanted to sit and chill and enjoy watching Titus maybe tackle somebody. I think you're good at this. When you enter a room, are you focused on what you can give or what you can get? When you enter a room, I have an assumption, but what do you think about when you enter a room?
Well, actually, the first thing I'm looking for is probably coffee. But I just want to see who's in there. Eye contact is really important to me. I want to see people. And so I actually just did this yesterday. I had a meeting and deciding where to sit, and because I always sit in the front because
such a good student.
I just like to.
Why do you sit in the front?
Well, for a few reasons. I think I listen well when people are talking. I try to be engaged, and I'm easily distracted, so that helps me stay focused. But I also just want to cheer on the person talking, and if I'm right there, like that, so
you're like the adult office coworker cheerleader. Then, like you're sitting on the front row, literally to help the communicator.
I try
That's
to
amazing.
do that. It's hard because we both communicate in front of people, and that's hard when you got somebody like. The whole time.
There are some people, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to name names.
Growly faces.
That I cannot look at you. I cannot look at you if I'm preaching because your face is telling me that you want to take a knife and gut me like a fish.
Jeez Louise.
That's what it says. I mean, like faces are.
Well, I think though, even with some of this stuff, I do think too. As you are asking the sifting questions, because we've talked about this before, where sometimes you're just having a bad day, and a bad day is just a bad day. But like walking into a football season with no desire or plan to help to pick up a responsibility is one thing. But like walking into a room once having a bad day, looking a little grumpy. And so as I'm checking my heart, those are things that I'm actually processing with the Lord often is this a trend in my life, or is this like a one bad day that I need to maybe apologize to somebody for, or process how I'm going to do it different next time? Because I do think we all have bad days, but if it's a trend, if it's become our rhythm or our go-to, that's when I think these sifting questions become not just behavior to modify, but like heart to change kind of conversations. Because you have a lot of really good questions, but focused on what you can give or what you can get, your whole posture changes.
Well, I get there, and you're similar to this. There's a weird thing that when I had some meetings in St. Louis a while back. And
were they at the Arch? I'm just kidding.
No, it was near the Arch. And so we're walking down, because you're downtown. That's where you know the conferences and stuff like that are. And so when I walk in places, I'll pick up trash. I know when you and I go on walks, you wish you had a trash bag to pick up trash.
Well, not just a trash bag. I will tell it, because if anybody knows where I can get one, I want one of those little arm extenders that I can like grip stuff, because some of that trash, I don't even feel safe picking it up with gloves.
Well, now they say, you gotta be careful because.
Well, yeah, I just need a gripper though. One of those like sticks that.
So
anyway.
I think that's another, as I'm thinking about the kind of person I want to be, how do I stay off the fence on stuff? You and I can go on a walk and not pick up trash because that's not our role. Mm-hmm. Our role is we have job, and we think, well, there's someone whose job is to pick up this trash or blah, blah, blah. Or I can, with Titus's football stuff, I can be like, well, there's some parents who haven't done anything yet. Come on. And so I want to be a person who's aware of the responsibilities though, who look, not that we always have to do everything at all, but like when you see a responsibility, screw whatever your role is, just go fulfill the responsibility.
Because, well, the responsibilities are opportunities too. Because when you're talking like that, I automatically think of when we're at home and there's stuff on the floor. Like our kids are just super good at running right past the hooks that were literally screwed into the wall to hold their backpacks, and they throw everything on the floor. And part of what we're trying to do right now is sometimes we do just pick it up, or we do just do the dishes if they're needed. But what we're also trying to do is ingrain in them this, hey, would you come pick up your stuff because it's in the way and it's going to hurt somebody? But helping them to start be conscious of even the small things and the small ways that just taking a moment to do something blesses. And our hope is that transfers into picking up trash, walking somewhere, or seeing somebody that needs help getting up and going and helping them get up.
Yeah, and I'm even think, like I'm going to take this even outside of because I brought it up, the picking up trash or even volunteering. Sometimes it's a responsibility of yours to just acknowledge another human being. Like where you're out and about and you're cross paths with someone, like say hi. Yeah. Like just because you don't have a role in their life of friend or whatever, like responsibility as a human being to be like, you're another human being. That's why I love where we live, because I feel like where we live gets us better than a lot of other places in our nation, where you don't have to be related to someone or friends with someone to say hi to someone, to acknowledge that they exist.
Sometimes that's hard though, because I think it's easy to be like, I'm always the one that says hi first, or what are they going to think? And I think pushing that aside, more often than not, people are so blessed when somebody just notices them. And it's okay to be the one that says hi first. That doesn't mean that you're less than or, you're a goon.
Such classic parenting lessons. Like, is that not what you try to train your kids along the way? You're like, because you get the, hey, I didn't dirty those dishes. Hey, I didn't. That's not my jacket that I set. That's right there on the floor. Cool.
Or somebody else moved it. It was mine, but somebody moved it.
It's fine, but it's there, and you know that other people are gonna walk on it. Yeah. So no, when you meet with someone, what's more important to you, that they feel known, or that you feel known? Shoot. That's role versus responsibility.
Yeah.
If you're a banker right now and you're going to sit in front of someone and they're going to talk to you about a small business loan or a new account or whatever, it's not just a transaction. If you're selling something, it's not just a transaction. To know that person just because they're a person.
Do you know, actually, one of the ways to combat that, just diving right into stuff, is at the beginning of most of my meetings, what I've tried to do is we start off by just doing like a quick check, like how are you doing today? Or how's your week been? Or what's going on in your life that I can help you hold or whatever? Because then it actually, I think, it takes some of that off and it's often reciprocated. So we both end up feeling heard, and then we can tackle through stuff with a little lighter load of stuff that nobody even sees that's going on. But that's been something that I have in the last year kind of put at the beginning of the meeting agenda for most things. And it helps me just remember, don't just dive into what we need to accomplish, but like make stuff personal.
Yeah.
So, hey, you matter to me. So I'm going to, and you can't do that with everybody, but it's helped me even personally be able to lean in and remember that like this person is a person outside of what we're trying to do. They have a whole life and they might be carrying a lot of stuff into this meeting. And what if I could help just acknowledge it or pray with them or even just try to know that they have somebody else with them?
I want to work with people, live with people, be just surrounded by people who are aware of the responsibilities that need to be done, not whose technical job description or role.
You hate it when people say, that's not my job description.
Yeah, I'm like, let me remove your job description.
Do you know, I did some research on this though. When employees, so just in workplace, but I would assume that it would transcend family, friendships, whatever.
Okay.
When they have well-defined roles and people are encouraged to take ownership and responsibility for the larger community, the rate of work performance goes up to 75%.
What?
Yeah. It's when you do not have that, it's 50%, which means that you've jumped 25% up, even in just your willingness to perform well when there's clarity and even like a willingness by the larger, and I think families for sure, but friends, think about friends where you're just always the one calling or always the one, whatever. That can be draining and exhausting. And there are seasons for that, but it's hard. Anyway, it just makes us all better. I think you're right. And sometimes it's just somebody being willing to do it and remind, like if they wouldn't have asked, you wouldn't have even known that there was a need for that either. And so some of that is being willing to communicate.
Yeah.
And
when you mess up, which comes first, repentance or recovery? That's one of these questions we're asking, sifting questions, like making this personal, like, how am I actually fulfilling responsibilities I have and not just like getting back in my role? And recovery, I think this is in a negative sense.
Yes.
Like, am I just trying to recover from my screw up? Or did I take time to repent to that person? Did I take time to say, I'm sorry, I did screw up. I said that wrong.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have, or when you mess up, which comes first, repentance or recovery? Recovery is often, well, I'll just do it now. I'll just fix it, or we'll just recover from this. Yeah. That's a good question. I wonder where I got that from. I don't know,
but it is a good question. And you're so good at that too, where you acknowledge it. You don't just go, well, I was having a bad day or whatever. You kind of, you're really good at the repentance and doing it, but modeling it even for our kids, because that's something we're working through with our kids right now. Blah.
So Galatians chapter 6, this is one of my favorite, just so you know. Galatians chapter 6, verse 2 and on for a while. Carry each other's burdens. Carry each other's burdens. There's a beauty to that. If you want to use the language you're using, pay attention to other people's responsibilities that they're struggling with, or that would support them.
Yeah.
Carry each other's burdens, and in this way, you fulfill the law of Christ. So you live out being a follower of Jesus Christ, and one of the ways you do that is to actually pay attention to the responsibilities of other people, and you support that. If anyone thinks they're something when they're not, they deceive themselves. Each one should test their own actions. There's your application for this podcast. Each one should test their own actions. Then they can take pride in themselves alone without comparing themselves to someone else. For each one should carry their own load. For some of you right now, I know, because you're like hyper diligent on this, and you're like, well, if people would just do what they're supposed to do. I get that. So make sure you do what you're supposed to do. Carry your own load. This isn't drop your responsibilities to pick up someone else's responsibilities.
Right.
Nevertheless, the one who receives instruction in the word should share all good things with their instructor. It's good stuff. So here's what I learned humbly. This still even makes me emotional. So I didn't want to do the announcer thing, and I didn't think it was a big deal. And I actually thought in my head, I know Titus might be upset that he won't see me in the stands because you can't see through that glass as far as I'm wearing. And I'm like, man. So I go to Titus. It's like, hey, dude, Dad needs to volunteer. There's a need, and so, and I was trying to how to word this. Hey, I got to do the announcing for the game, so I'm not going to be able to sit in the stands. And his response was, "What?" And he thought it was the coolest thing. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my goodness. It makes me wonder how we see responsibilities and things that need to be done, and we think that those doing that will get in the way. And so often, it's the absolute opposite of getting in the way, to where my goal was to be a good dad for my son at his football game, and announcing is what made his day. He doesn't care if I sit in the stands.
And you'll probably end up doing it again for another. And well, so, but that Galatians, that chunk of verses, what I love about it too is I think oftentimes though, so you did that announcing role and there may be a need again, and you're prepared now to do it again if you're needed to.
That's a good point.
Because I think a lot of times too though, within the roles and responsibilities, if we feel compelled to do it, then it's easy, I think too, to get really frustrated when I'm doing this and nobody else is. I'm the only one that picks up trash where we live. Sometimes that's for us to do then. That's a responsibility that we can take ownership of and not just be frustrated that not everybody else is coming and doing it too. Like also finding peace and just being willing to do what we're supposed to do and not having that expectation for everybody else, and just be diligent in the work in front of us too. Because it's likely that in a few weeks you're going to be doing that again. Because I doubt that anybody else is going to sign up because it's intimidating. Well,
and in basic lesson, I think that we all know this, that once you step out and fulfill a responsibility, it gets a little easier.
Sure.
It doesn't get easy, but you're like, okay, now I got a little bit of a grasp of what that involves, because that was a part of the daunting part. Of I don't know I've never announced anything.
When you didn't just announce, you brought a playlist, you had the national anthem, and you didn't know any of that. You just kind of prepared.
That's my weirdness.
Well, you're just prepared, but you got to connect with, there was another family in there doing the scoreboard. And so there were just so many blessings about it. And so I think the win for that too, though, is that our kids even learned Dad did something he was a little bit afraid of.
Yeah.
Did it anyway. Served others by fulfilling a need, connected with other people. And that's a win too, that we can do hard things and it can turn out well. And it went well. It was fun. You did a great job. I need
penalty on the field.
I need to find one of those grabby things though. So
Rapid City Raiders.
Hey, you got to call. Titus had a tackle. You got
he
to
sacked
call
the quarterback, and I just all of a sudden was like, Titus the tank with the sack. That's awesome. Hey, thanks for listening to this episode. I hope it sparks something, and maybe gather some friends around your family, and let this lead your roommates. Like, classic roommate problem is when people neglect the responsibilities and it gets frustrating. Yeah.
So clean the microwave.
Yeah, clean the microwave. So we hope that this gets you off the fence a little bit. Maybe you and your crew off the fence. Don't just fall into your roles. Pay attention to responsibilities, and don't forget that you've got people around you.
Pay attention.
It's not just that they need to do whatever they need to do for you. Your life affects other people as well.
Yeah.
And that is a good thing. So thanks for tuning in for this episode of Off the Fence. Until next time, we love you very much.
Bye, friends.